I honestly feel horrible for General Flynn. Sir, this is how we treat 33-year war veterans. We treat him differently than we would any other, person in any other administration. We lie to him and say, no, don't use your constitutional rights. They unmask him illegally. They don't even think he's lying, but they force him to sign something or else they're going to go after his kid. What father's not going to dive on the sword under those circumstances?
It was a complete setup from the get-go, Sean. I think it's going to go back as far as 2015, maybe 2014, with Mr. Mifsud and others arranging connections to try to make it look like General Flynn was doing something with the Russians that obviously he wasn't. At the same time, he's working on behalf of our government to collect information for their benefit. He's been nothing but a fabulous patriot his entire life, risked his life for 5 years in service of the country in active combat, aside from 33 years total of military service. Just an outstanding man from an outstanding family of patriots.
Let me ask you, because you made this filing on Lieutenant General Flynn's behalf, and you disclosed the phone's existence of Misford. You see what the Attorney General Barr is doing and Mr. Durham is doing, the U.S. Attorney from Connecticut. Do you think, based on their actions and the time they're spending in Italy, Great Britain, etc., are you confident that they're very close to being, if not on the target, right over the target about what really went on?
I do think so. I think it's going to be just a remarkable revelation that will be coming from all of it that kind of shakes all of us who love this country to the core, that something like this could happen here, but it's got to be exposed to sunlight, and that's the only way we can disinfect it.
Well, but most Americans now are beginning to see that there is this deep state problem. If there's premeditated fraud on the FISA court, and that people are not held accountable, we don't really have a constitutional system of law and justice where we have equal application of our laws and equal justice under the law now, do we?
Oh, definitely not. Between the double standard and this targeted takeout of people for political purposes, we're everything we're supposed not to be. That's typical Russian tactics.
Well, let's go to Papadopoulos, because it was Papadopoulos, that he was the one that first meets this guy, Misford, and wasn't it Misford telling him that he had access to, I guess, Hillary Clinton's email server?
Yes, I think it was Mifsud telling Papadopoulos that he knew the Russians had Hillary's emails, which there's no reason to believe was true whatsoever.
What is the status of General Flynn's case? Because I know that you have been asking that all of this evidence under Brady be handed over because you believe they have exculpatory evidence they are withholding from you.
Oh, definitely. We have found even more evidence that we know they have withheld. We have filed a brief just as of noon today that is quite revealing. It's very powerful, and I think it's going to make a huge difference. Judge Sullivan can see exactly what's been going on from this. I think he'll have every grounds he needs to either go ahead and dismiss the case for egregious government misconduct right now, or at the very least give us a significant amount of Brady information that the government has long been hiding. There's even a valid basis to hold the prosecutors in contempt of court for ignoring his very clear Brady order. We've caught them in some significant, outrageous violations. Right now, the brief is under seal. We forwarded it to the government for their agreement to redact certain things that are still subject to a protective order, but we're hoping to resolve that before the end of the day today because it is quite stunning.
Let me pull you out for just a second, just as one question, out of your role as being the attorney for General Flynn. And I honestly hope that the judge in this case sees how bad things went here and how corrupt things have been. But what do you believe really happened? If you're putting your pieces together to the extent that you can share it, based on your own observations following the case, even on this program with us, as we've discovered FISA abuse, a rigged investigation into Hillary, the potential outsourcing of illegal spying to circumvent U.S. law, and basically a coup attempt culminating in a non-coup attempt over Ukraine. What do you think went on?
I think certain elements within the intelligence community targeted General Flynn, possibly while he was still at the end of his service in the Obama administration, because he was so outspoken on important issues like the problems with ISIS and Benghazi, and he had a lot of information, and he disagreed with the Obama administration on how that was being handled. He felt so strongly about it, he was forced to speak out on the issue publicly and in Congress. And then when he came to actually work on the Trump campaign, that completely freaked them out to the point they went after him, doubling down on all of it. And then once he was appointed National Security Advisor, that was even worse. In fact, I've heard that someone said there's actually no way Flynn can be National Security Advisor. Somebody very high up in the intelligence community gave that instruction, and even told David Ignatius to pull the trigger on the article that came out on the 12th suggesting that he was implicated in or had done something wrong in his call with Ambassador Kislyak. Of course, there was absolutely nothing wrongful in that call. The government's had to admit that. But that and the BuzzFeed article were part of the pretext the FBI then used to go interview him without really telling him he was being interviewed. Actually, I don't think Mr. McCabe mentioned the lawyer issue at all. I think he avoided all of that despite his memo that suggests otherwise. Didn't say anything about it, made it sound like a very casual conversation and part of something that the agents had just been at the White House for a couple of days earlier. And then they talked to him enough that they actually believe he's telling the truth, which he was. They go back and report that and don't go to interview him again. Meanwhile, the Department of Justice clears him of being, quote, an agent of Russia in an internal memo that we found evidence of that documents that as of January 30, 2017, when he was still in the White House.
Stay right there, Sidney. Yeah, go ahead. We'll pick it up on the other side. All right, as we continue, Sidney Powell is with us. She is the attorney for General Michael Flynn. All right, I think we're going to listen, your case is so compelling. I feel, well, I'll say cautiously optimistic for General Flynn, and our thoughts and prayers are with him. And I really, truly appreciate. I know you're doing this out of passion and love for justice, and I know that he doesn't have any more money. And I know that it's sad. I mean, didn't he have to sell his house? He did have to sell his house in Virginia to help pay for all the legal fees, but the American public has been very generous in supporting the MikeFlynnDefenseFund.org. And so we've been able to keep things going with the staff that we need. I mean, we've been working with a very small, tight group of people and as lean as we can possibly be. But, we do have to have support staff and compensate that. And people have enabled us to do it, not to mention how much he has been buoyed by the outpouring of emotional support and moral support and prayers. Well, keep up the good work. We'll put the website. What's the name of the website again to help General Flynn? MikeFlynnDefenseFund.org. We'll put it up on Hannity.com to make it easy. So sad that this could happen in our great country, but look at what they're doing to the president now. It's pathetic.